Welcome to the PMA Bulletin, charting the real estate markets of Toronto and beyond. It's something we've been doing all of our lives, and we're looking to try to help you to understand what's been happening within this marketplace in this last immediate period. I'm Andy Brethour, chairman of PMA Brethour Group with offices in Toronto, Ottawa, and Calgary. And the action this week was quite astounding. We had a move by the Bank of Canada of a full 100 basis points to 2.5 on their overnight rate, 2.75 on their main bank rate. This is an amazing series of events that began 90 days ago when rates were 0.25%, a tenfold increase in a period of this last 3 months. This is a shock to the system. It's a shock to the consumer, and equally to the development industry and how to respond to this rapidity of change. And it's the rapidity of change is the key factor, not necessarily the level of rates, because we're just moving from free money to cheap money. But man, this adjustment is tough. This consumer has been experiencing a level of such low rate for so long, almost 20 years. This is a generational impact, and it's a very serious impact indeed, at least from that perception. And of course, the Bank of Canada deals as much in the psychology and the perception of change as it does in the reality of the change. So their whole target, their aggressive stance, is trying to find a way to derail inflation in a period that is what appears to be somewhat out of control. The U.S. Federal Reserve in America in June jumped 75 basis points to 1.75. You can expect on July the 26th, 27th at their next meeting that the Reserve will move probably a full percentage point as well and come equal to Canadian rates. U.S. inflation was announced just yesterday at 9.1%. This is historic. 41 years we have never hit these levels. This is getting back into the wild and crazy days of the early 1980s. But I want you to remember that these levels of rates have held below 6% for almost 22 years, and that in terms of the market's reaction to that is going to be shocking, but they will adjust. Mortgage rates during the 1990s averaged 11.75%. Every 1-point move in rate in a GTA mortgage today bumps this carrying cost by $500 a month. So effectively, we've seen about a $1,500 a month carrying cost hit within this last 90 days. That's where the shock factor comes in. And of course, two things happen simultaneously between the consumer and the development industry. They both hit the pause button at the same time. The consumer took a deep breath and went, oh my gosh, what's happening? I'll just pull back a little. While the developer said, oh my gosh, what's happening? I think I'll pull back just a little as well. So what we do, of course, is constrict supply and reduce demand. This will have an impact on prices. As we've seen within the resale market within these last period to June, we've actually seen quite a remarkable adjustment in price already. Overall average is down about 14% from this imaginary peak of February. Remember February was in the most irrational, exuberant period of the first quarter. And so this adjustment was absolutely expected at some point. We were already feeling a pushback from the consumer by March and April, but this movement in rates, the first hit in rates, really put a shock into the system. So we've seen prices come off by about 14% overall, much higher in detached, because that was the more frothy through the first quarter, than in high-rise condo. Interestingly enough, high-rise condo is off about 8%. Now, we expect that this movement in price over the next several months will probably retrench somewhere between 23 and 25% from this imaginary peak in February. If you think of the fall of 2021 is probably about the level that we'll come back to, with an average house price on resale just topping out over $1 million, around $1.05 million from its peak in February, of almost 1.4 million. So it's a substantial change. It'll be a short, sharp correction in our opinion, balancing out by fall and into the spring of 23. So there you have it, really in a nutshell from pricing. Let me add another perspective in supply side management. The fundamentals of the industry on the new home side are the same. There is no supply. We constricted so dramatically in 905 that we just did not bring product to the market quick enough to meet demand. And we ate everything we produced. In the resale market, supply side increased dramatically in the last 60 days to almost 16,000 listings. That's up from just over 4,000 in January, so an exponential increase. What this will do is continue to follow this pattern through the summer, and we expect listing supply to probably push upwards to 20,000. And you might say, oh my gosh, will that further deteriorate prices? Actually, it'll probably stabilize prices, as opportunity and choice will be quite significant. And the consumer will recognize the value that's going to be suddenly passed on. So in this period going forward, remember, a market imbalance in the GTA today, a population of nearly 9 million around the Golden Horseshoe, is a market, a supply of probably around 25,000 units. I don't even think it'll get to there. It'll hold somewhere around the 20,000 level and balance out. That's one area to watch very carefully. It's a big indicator of where pricing will go. So here we have, though, on the new home side, does it adjust simultaneously with the resale market? No. New housing ratchets down very, very slowly. Think of the fixed cost of land. Think of the increased pressure on the building industry of the inflationary underlying labor and material costs. Absolutely out of control through to this period. And the recent settlement of roofers at 25% increase, 17% up front, and then 4 and 4 over the ensuing years. And it's probable that what we're going to see is hopefully some easing of this supply side disruption that we've appeared throughout the world. We were very hopeful. We started to see some signs in June of the supply chain pressures coming off, but suddenly China invoked a COVID-free policy and locked down again. This is going to put continuing pressure on production and delivery of world goods. Very, very challenging in the next several months. So no relief there for a while. And secondarily, Ukraine-Russian conflict. This has added fuel to an already burning house, if you like, that was on fire with inflation coming into this period. And this conflict now is in its 5th month. It's hard to believe. And if there's anything I can say out to world leaders, let's get this solved. Let's pull together these two sides and come to a resolution. There's an immediate relief to inflation, economic stability worldwide, worry and the psychology within the marketplace. It needs to get resolved, it needs to get done, and needs to get done soon. As we head now into the summer, it's going to be a summer of instability. Uncertainty leads to confusion, and confusion leads to inaction. So we expect that market demand is going to be pretty soft. You'll see resale numbers coming in at 6,000 units a month or less when normal is about 8,500. You'll see new housing activity falling off to a couple thousand units a month, both high-rise and low-rise. Some of the lowest numbers we'll have unrecorded since we've been recording these since the 1980s. Well, will this adjust? Yes, it'll adjust, I think, very, very quickly. GDP growth is actually pretty strong. I don't know if we have a recession on the horizon. If it is, I think it's a very mild one, because our sense of growth in the economic base is still fundamentally powerful. Immigration remains a stirring element of growth, with 1.2 million people entering the country over the next 3 years, and 25% of that into the GTA. So we can paint a picture that's actually quite strong and an important one going forward. But it's going to be unstable and a bit unpredictable as we move into this next several months. We expect it to kind of stabilize through the fall, and if there's something called normal, we'll be back to it in the spring of 2023. Adjustments are taking place today that will be brought forward into the later this year and the balance of the spring of next year. So there you have it in a nutshell. Our PMA bulletin suggesting that we've got a marketplace that's still there, still with us obviously, and one that's going to be a little bit challenging as we move forward. So watch for our Q2 review. We'll have the numbers out towards the first or second week of August. I wish you all the best. Look forward, live positive, stay strong. You'll get through this. It will work. Thanks for being with us today.